What if I told you that 99% of people will never truly live the life they deserve? That most people, despite the noise, the hustle, the grind, and the highlight reels, are merely surviving, not thriving? And what if I told you that a 1% life, a life filled with peace, purpose, presence, and power, isn't just for the rich or the lucky, it's for the ready? But I didn't get here by being ready. I got here by being broken. I stepped over broken glass, past bullet casings. I got down on my knees. I turned him over. I placed his face in my lap. December 26, 2009, I found my uncle, Wayne, my best friend, face down, sprawled out in a pool of blood, murdered. He was shot 15 times, 10 in the head and 5 in the body. Help! There's Michael Reuter. My uncle's been shot, and I think he's dead. When the police arrive, I try to speak, but I can't. My lips are shivering and I'm trembling. And I watch as my uncle gets carried out of our store in a body bag. The police put me in the back of a cop car. They take me to the Northwestern Police Station in Baltimore City. A detective takes me, puts me in an interrogation room, takes out a tape recorder, puts it on the table, and hits record. It's Detective Boyce, December 26, 2009, 6:48 p.m. I begin to tell him everything I knew. You see, I knew who killed my uncle, and I knew the killer knew I was the only one who could identify him. This is the day that changed my life forever. I was supposed to be there with him. Fear, guilt, paranoia. I was 23 years old at the time. A friend of mine was waiting for me outside of the police precinct, and he took me home to my parents' house where tons of friends and family were waiting. But my father wasn't home yet. And when he arrived, he was excited at first. He thought we were having a party. He loved to be around people. I took him, I sat him down, I got on my knees, I looked up at him and I said, "Dad, your brother, Uncle Wayne, he's been murdered." Without saying a word, he put his hand on my shoulder, he kissed my forehead, and he went up to his room. Years later, my father would get diagnosed with prostate cancer. 2 weeks after that, we were back in the hospital, and he's sicker than ever. I was me, him, and my mom, and I'll never forget. The doctor came in the room. He had that expressionless look on his face, that look like when you have something to say, but you just don't know how to say it. And he looked at my father. He said, "Sir, you have stage 4 pancreatic and liver cancer. You have 6 months to live." My father ended up living for 8. Often I'd sleep with him at my parents' house on the L-shaped couch with his feet at my head. I'd get up with him in the middle of the night when he gets sick from the chemo. I could picture him still, skin and bones, bald head, violently ill, thrown up into the toilet. I'll just rub his back and tell him it's going to be okay. We also made many beautiful memories during that time, memories I'll cherish forever. If you know the Reuters, you know we love to gamble. That's in our blood. It comes from my grandma. This was the only day I ever gambled, ever, that was truly worth every penny lost. And I won't get into the details of how many pennies I've lost. Fast forward now to June 17, 2016. Of my immediate family only, we're in the hospice. Each one of my father's breaths is getting further and further from the last. My arms are wrapped around his chest, my mouth is at his ear, and I'm whispering to him, "Let go, let go. Go be with your brother. Go be with Uncle Wayne." He takes one final breath. One tear drops from his eye, and he's gone forever. My father's dying wish was to get justice for his brother's murder. We didn't know this at the time, but my dad had been writing letters to the FBI, and due to one of those letters, they picked up the case from Baltimore City. And it still gives me chills to think that my uncle died in 2009, my dad died in 2016, and the day we buried my dad is the day that the FBI said, "This is our guy, and this is who we're going after." And shortly after my father's death, in fact, within several months of my father dying, 3 of my 4 grandparents died. Death after death, burial after burial, eulogy after eulogy. I often found myself sleeping at my mother's house, at the foot of her bed like a scared child, anxious, nervous, depressed, scared, genuinely thought I was losing my mind. I was also running a successful title and escrow company at the time. At least I looked successful to the outside world, but the truth is I was an empty shell. I was a broken soul. I was drinking and using drugs daily, socially and alone, plummeting deeper and deeper into a ditch. I'd wake up, twist the cap of a liquor bottle and guzzle it to calm my nerves and my withdrawals, pour out whatever cocaine I had left from the night before, roll up a dollar bill, and do a line. I told my family over and over again this was going to stop, but it never did. Till August 23rd, 2018, I called my mom in a panic, and she came to get me, as she always did. She was taking me to the hospital. I'll never forget that ride. My arm was numb from the tip of my fingers all the way to the top of my shoulder. I drank and drugged myself into a psychosis. I remember begging my mom, please help me get through this. I'll never do this again. I thought I was going to die. Turns out when I got to the hospital, I was knocking on death's door. But when I woke up there that day, that's the day everything changed for the better. That's the day I asked for help. Shortly after leaving the hospital, I checked myself into a rehab facility. Father Martin Ashley in Haverty Grace, Maryland. I had one-on-one counseling, group counseling, psychiatrist for my PTSD. The first time I was ever able to talk about my invisible scars. First time I was ever able to talk about what I saw when I found my uncle that day. The distinct and exact memory of where every hole was. Now, although that didn't fix me, that was the beginning of my healing. Later on in 2018, I found myself in a courtroom 10 feet away from my uncle's killer. 10 feet away. And I told the judge that the person not only stole my heart and my soul, they stole a part of my life. And I begged of the judge, I begged of him to put this motherfucking monster away for the rest of his life. And the judge, an elderly man, sentences the killer to 20 years for premeditated murder. I told myself that no matter what happened that day, no matter what the outcome was, I'm going to put this behind me and I'm moving on with the rest of my life. But it wasn't that easy because I had wrapped my whole identity up in getting justice for my uncle. No one had known this, but I had been working with the FBI for 2 years. My whole life had become this, and it wasn't so easy to move on. But for the sake of time today, I'm going to fast forward to now. Today, I'm 39 years old. Today, I haven't used alcohol or cocaine in over 7 years. Today, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm an uncle. Unfortunately, I'm a business owner. But most importantly, today, I'm happy, today I'm healthy, and today I'm living my 1% life. So, I ask you, do you deserve to live your 1% life? You don't have to answer, I'll answer for you. The answer is yes, 100%, absolutely yes. You, everyone in here, and everyone outside here deserves to live their 1% life. But only if you're willing to work for it. And if you are, you can unlock something that most people will never find in their lifetime, which is a life filled with peace, purpose, presence, and power. But how do you get there? Well, you got to start by asking yourself some brutally tough questions. Where am I weak? Where do I need to get stronger? What's causing me pain? What's holding me back? And look, if I can get here from murder, trauma, addiction, grief, and near death, I promise you I'm not special, and I promise you that you can too. Here's how I did it and how you can too. Step one is you have to identify. Is there something in your life that's holding you back? Something that's dragging you towards the negative instead of the positive? Something that's draining your energy, stealing your peace? For most people, it's obvious. It's a toxic relationship or a job they hate, a bad habit that's wrecking their health. For others, it shows up more subtle as anxiety, depression, or resentment, either towards oneself or towards others. But either way, you feel it, that constant weight, that obstacle in the way of you and who you're supposed to be. For me, I had a light bulb moment. There was a moment that I was all alone in my row home in Canton, Baltimore City, silence, just me, my brain, and my thoughts with the lights off, and I was visioning this person I wanted to be. And all I could think of was this superhuman, this superpowered version of Michael Reuter, the person that I knew I was meant to be, but the person I wasn't. But in that same vision, I envisioned where I currently was, and I just kept picturing myself underwater, and I'd be swimming to the surface, and sometimes I'd get my mouth above water and I'd get some air, but I'd always get dragged back under. And I had these weights that were pulling me down, and they were shackled to me. And all I could picture on those weights was drugs, alcohol, and the disaster of a life that comes with it. And I knew that night that I identified if I wasn't able to cut these weights, get them off me, swim to the surface, I would never have the chance to spread my wings, to fly, and to become the Michael Reuter that I knew in my heart I deserved to be. So that night, nothing happened other than the fact that I identified what had to go. And although it didn't happen immediately, eventually I was able to move on to step 2, which, in my opinion, is the hardest step. Because this isn't just admitting what your problem is. This is coming to terms with the fact that this is what is holding me back from the life that I was meant for. It's concrete evidence where your brain no longer has any excuses to hide behind. And it's when you say to yourself, if I don't fix this, I will never reach my full potential. Now for me, I already identified that drugs and alcohol were a problem. But as crazy as it sounds, I hadn't truly admitted that this was a problem. So I did something most people won't do. I went and checked myself into a rehab. I needed to find out for myself if I had a problem with drugs or alcohol. I needed to learn what addiction was. I needed someone outside my own warped brain to help me see clearly. And when I did that, when I went through that process and I got brutally honest with myself, with 110% certainty, I was able to admit, I am a drug addict, I am an alcoholic. And if I don't do something about this, I will never become that superhuman version of Michael Reuter that I'm meant to be and that I want to be. Once you admit the truth, the magic happens, because then your brain is no longer at war with it, and then you're ready to change. Last thing I'll add here in the step 2 phase where you're admitting, this is the part where you can ask for help. This is where you need to find someone outside your health so you can know for certain if this is something that you need to get to the other side of. And if you do, then you can move on to step 3, where you create a plan. See, rehab didn't fix me. Helped me identify alcohol and drugs were a problem, helped me admit I was a drug addict and an alcoholic, but it didn't give me a blueprint for how to live the rest of my life. That part was on me. And when I got out, I had to learn how to live every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every year, without ever putting drugs and alcohol into my system ever again. And to be honest, I didn't know how I was going to do it. I could never see past the day, so that's what I did. I didn't put alcohol or drugs into my system every single day. And I did it over and over and over again until I got to today. Today, I'm 7 years sober off alcohol and cocaine. Now, in conclusion, I didn't just use this process to get sober. In fact, before I ever used it for addiction or for sobriety, I had to use it to change my mindset. You see, after my uncle was murdered and after my dad died, I had every excuse to say this happened to me. And believe me, for a long time I did. But eventually, I was able to identify that I was living with a victim mindset. I was able to admit that I was clinging to pain and I was playing small because of it. And I was able to create a plan and change the way I thought about everything. Truly everything. Now, this is me being 100% honest, from the heart, completely open with you guys. For a long time, everything happened to me. But there was a time, and a very powerful time, when I looked at my uncle's murder, and I realized that my uncle's murder didn't happen to me. It happened for me. I sat in that blood, and that blood was love. And that was him pouring it out for me so that I can live and become the person I am today. My dad's death didn't happen to punish me. My dad's death happened to push me. And the reality is this: if my uncle wasn't murdered, my dad didn't die, I would have never got sober. If I never got sober, I might be dead. If I was dead, I would have never started a business. And I would have never helped Eli buy a house. If I never started a business, I would have never been able to retire my mom. She's 75 years old and she gets to spend the rest of her days with her 7 and counting, hopefully there's an 8th right now, grandkids. I would have never met my beautiful wife, Carly, who truly is my soulmate. I have peace, joy, love in my house and everywhere I go with her. And if I never met my soulmate, I would have never had my heart, my soul, my joy, my purpose, my beautiful daughter, Emma Celia Reuter. So I ask you this: are you ready to live a life filled with peace, purpose, presence, and power? And if so, what is holding you back from living your 1% life? Thank you. Michael Reuter.